Justice Thursdays this week welcomes Honourable Justice JACQUELINE KAMAU. Welcome to the Situation Room this morning. High Court Judge and President of the Kenya Magistrates and Judges Association. Karibu sana to the Situation Room.
Asante sana.
Welcome to the hot seat.
Thank you.
You say things.
It's not too hot.
Well,
yeah,
we'll see. It all depends. The ball is squarely and firmly in your court.
That's fantastic.
We will wait and see how this conversation goes. But thank you for joining us on Justice Thursday today. Interesting conversations today about supporting the welfare of judges and judicial officers to clear case backlog. So as we jump right into it this morning, Justice Kamau, this has been front and center of the conversation for the last, we don't know how long, about the huge backlog that is needed. Now, as we're looking at this, clearly, there is an outcry from judges and magistrates that support is needed. Paint a picture for us of how difficult this huge backlog of cases then makes it to operate within the system.
Thank you very much for that very important question. Now, the first thing that you need to understand is currently, maybe the unofficial figures of Kenya, we are like at 50 million Kenyans. And we have judicial officers, 703 judicial officers. So it means that 703 judicial officers have to service a population of 50 million. It means that every day when a child is born, that child becomes a potential client for the judiciary in issues of maintenance, in issues of custody, issues of access. So to expect 700 people to really be on top of matters is quite a task. When we look at previously, we had about maybe 43 judges before the constitution came up. And so that's when we had a big number of judges. So you had about maybe 40 or thereabouts. So, and this is a country that is growing. So how do you expect these few people to be able to clear the backlog? So far, I think by last year, there were about over 600,000 cases which are pending. Now, when you calculate at 700 people, it means that every person has to do about over 800 cases per year. Now, the amount of cases that we're given to do, humanly possible, because you're doing cases in the morning, and in the afternoon, you have to sit and do the judgments. So it means that as judges, we are entitled to do about 10 cases. So that's about 220 per year. So if you're telling me
10 cases per month.
10 cases per month. Okay. That's ideally what you should do without getting stressed out. But people end up doing even 16, 20, 25 cases and that kind of thing because of really pushing themselves. So if we have to say that we are going to clear 800 and something cases, and that means there are no other new cases coming in. So it's static. But that's not the position. Kenya is already a very litigious society. People have gotten used to the constitutional issues and they want to test all this in court. So as you finish every day, even like today, I can tell you how many cases will be filed today, even under certificate of urgency. How many? And we're few. So far now we have about 70 judges, high court judges. People have died. Some have been promoted to the Court of Appeal. Some have retired. But we are still expected to do the same work for the number of judges, with the same thing.
I'm curious.
Yes.
I've heard this term, and I've even read about it, that we are litigious as Kenyans.
Yes.
What's the threshold? At what point are we just ordinary citizens of the planet? And at what point do we jump that threshold? And now we are always rearing to get to court.
Fine. Let me say this. We are not as litigious as maybe other countries like the US, because I've heard the US is very litigious. Your dog is barking, so people take you to court.
Right.
You're blaring music, somebody takes you to court. Here, even if you open a club, unless it's really a nuisance, people will not necessarily take you to court. But now with the Constitution, everything that is being done, people are very hawk-eyed. So they want to know, are you complying with the Constitution? I know my co-host here is very, very good at taking cases to court.
She's actually very loud about it.
I'm
exactly.
a fan of the court.
Yes.
As I
She's a fan
sit
of
here,
the
I'm a
court.
friend
In fact,
of the judiciary.
we call her a freedom fighter.
Exactly.
Yes.
And the reason why you need those freedom fighters is the only way you can create jurisprudence. So we sit, we don't go and get cases. The cases are brought to us. So if you don't bring the cases as well, then it means then we close.
You see why I
Right.
asked the
You wouldn't
question,
be
Justice,
there.
Yeah, you wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be there. So we need those cases.
See, I asked the question because this situation that appears as though we are prone towards always going to court, is it not a good thing that we actually have a citizenry that is alive to the constitution that they have, the rights that they have, and the legal position that they hold in the country? And that
Precisely.
all they're doing is actually exercising it.
Precisely.
And they say, oh, there are these open channels. And what I am even considering, an even better situation, is that we see it happening every day, and that there's a conversation taking place even with the justice system. Now, what I'm saying may seem commonplace, but if I look around us, this is not common in many of the countries, or even our neighbors. It's not common at all. This freedom that we're talking about, that we enjoy, that we are making a normal conversation as though it's something that we do every day, and we do. I am saying, burdened as you are, it is a good thing.
It is a good thing, and we welcome you, because if you don't bring the cases, then we are not going to get a job. I'm not going to get a salary. So I welcome you, and because and every small thing that we feel strained about. The last time I think they were talking about the 50 kilometers per hour, the way we are going to drive in the streets. Somebody brought the case to court. Justice Odunga did give a decision on that. Is it reasonable? The next person thinks that something is happening. We give a decision. It's important. But the only argument I was making is that because we are very litigious, then we need a bigger pool of people for us to be able to service the cases. Because what is happening is that you have very good cases, but they're stuck in the legal system. And they're not moving as fast. Because I'm not able to push them as fast.
Can I also?
I'm only human.
Can I bring another aspect? Because of course we monitor the budget. We were just talking about the budget, Eurobonds, and the violations around that. And then I quickly Googled judiciary budget cuts Kenya, and this is what I find: statement by Chief Justice Maraga on judiciary budget cuts, November 2019. Judiciary in a 2.3 billion budget deficit, February 2020. Budget reduction to affect JTI activities, Judiciary of Kenya. That was August 2018. Then we have judiciary budget cut restored. We were even unable to pay salaries. This is November 2019. So fact-checking Chief Justice on judiciary funding, 2015 cuts, 2015, 2016 cuts, 2018, 2019 cuts. The executive has been on a warpath with the judiciary. I'll put that out there. We are not the first country. Same thing happened in South Africa. Zuma did not like the way the judiciary was treating him. He was on a warpath with the judiciary. And this is being affected through budget cuts. So you're talking about lack of capacity with an executive that is not sympathetic, with a parliament that has been slashing this budget. So where do we go from here?
And that's the big question, because one of the ways in which I was saying that the judiciary can be assisted and supported is by adequate budgetary allocation. If you don't give us judges to do this work, then what does it mean? But I remember there's one time when I did speak to a member of parliament, and I said, are you people not concerned that, and this was a friend of mine, are you not concerned that when you don't give us the budgetary allocation, that Wanjiko is suffering? And they said, we don't care. They don't care. And because Wanjiko...
They don't care that you're not getting the budgetary allocation, or they don't care that Wanjiko is suffering?
It was both ways.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, even for Wanjiko, does not understand that once we are not given the budgetary allocation, Wanjiko suffers. And you only get to realize that you suffer when you do come to the court system.
Are you saying our MPs, these ones that are cutting the budget, don't use the court system?
They do use the court system, but you see, for their vote, it is not pegged to how the courts operate. It is, how do I operate as a member of parliament? What money have I given you to the CDF? I've constructed one or two classes. So even if it doesn't impact on this other side of how you're clearing the backlog, it won't impact on the votes.
Wanjiko doesn't understand.
Wanjiko doesn't understand.
So actually, earlier Honorable Shabir was saying that citizens don't understand the budget process
Did not.
and are therefore not able to decipher the interest around that. And this is
What I'm
same
saying.
case.
Yes.
Even as you're saying all these things, Honorable KAMAU, I refer to the State of the Judiciary Address report a week ago.
Yes.
Right? And the information that's given therein is that there's an impressive makeup, or rather an eating into the backlog of some of these cases, that there's been a significant reduction because some work has actually been done, and it's impressive. 83% in a month, I think, is really,
Yes.
really, really good.
Yes.
What can be attributed to that success,
I'll tell
according
you.
to this Soja?
I'll tell you. It's how much the judicial officers and the judges are putting in. Like I told you, if I'm supposed to only give about 10 decisions every month, if you look at the decisions I've given this month, it's probably about 30. But it means then you don't have a life. I don't go out, like you people will probably be going out. I don't go out to the discos. You can't go out for coffee. You can't do on Sundays. You rush from church. You go and start doing the
Justice,
decisions.
have I just heard you say that I go to discos?
For the Kenyan Mwananchi Wanjiko.
That you don't.
One can only assume.
Exactly. So in as much as perhaps maybe I'd like to go to the disco, I'd like to go to the club,
Right.
or I'd like to do that, or go to the gym.
Or sit and have a minute for
you
real.
do not
Yes.
have that.
Okay.
You don't even have time to go and do your hair. You understand? Because you are forever working, and it's as a result of that. But that's why you find that people have posted these results. Even the impost itself, we probably are at a deficit of about almost 5,000 people. But we are being able to post this kind of results.
So
Kenyans
what
should
so there's a
appreciate.
cost.
what kind of numbers do we
There's a
need?
human cost.
We need
If you're
about
saying right
10,000.
now that there are 70 judicial officers,
Yes.
sorry, 700,
We need about 10,000.
and we have
about 5,000.
So we have a shortfall of 10,000.
we have a shortfall
We have
of
a shortfall of
5,000
5,000.
judicial
Yes.
officers, and this is judges,
Judicial
magistrates,
officers and judiciary staff.
and judiciary
It's across
staff.
the board.
It's across the board.
That is what is needed to
Exactly.
actually get things running in
Precisely.
in normal lines.
Because for me, as a judge, you need support. You need to have researchers. You need a court assistant. You need many things. But you find in some places or some judges do not even have the researchers. So you have to do the work yourself. Or some researchers, you're sharing one between 5 people. Or the court assistant, some people have to wait for that court assistant to leave the other court to come into my court. So we start the cases at about 11 o'clock because we have to wait for the other court to finish between 9 and 10. So how can we be able to deliver? And yet we are delivering.
Can I ask this question, Justice? Is it that we cannot afford to finance the judiciary adequately, or is that we deliberately do not fund you adequately?
My view is that they do not appreciate what we do. And as a result of that, they tend to put the budget lower than any other place. But when you look at even the parliament, what do they do on any particular day? They'll be out in the rallies. Fine, I'm not saying that they do not work. They're out in the rallies, they do all that kind of thing. If it's the office of the president, of course they have the ministries and all that, and they have a big staff. But the judiciary as well is an important arm. And until people realize that in Kenya, that it needs to work also for people to move, then they need to give adequate finances. And again, also the other thing is that the fact that we are also working and we are posting these impressive results. So everybody's like, so why do you want more people? And we've had the argument that the more judges you've had and the more magistrates you've had, the bigger the backlog is getting. But the reason for this is for the same reason that people are now coming to court more. So
Even as you're doing this
Success
work,
breeds
more
Yes.
people are
more
coming, and
work.
development
more people,
begets
because you
development,
get
right?
confidence.
It's like a vote of, it's a
Yes.
vote of confidence on the judicial
Yes.
system. People seem to have increased their quotient of trust, and they're saying, I think we will be able to get justice if we actually go to court.
Exactly.
But see, this question has to be asked, Justice. I look at the time when Chief Justice Tunga was the president of our Court of Appeal.
Yes.
And I look
Justice
at
Mutunga?
Chief Justice.
Chief Justice.
Yes.
When he was the Chief Justice.
When he was the Chief Justice.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, yes.
And it was the Kibaki era. Now, he got what one would call very serious support. So a lot of the things that we saw happening in the judiciary was possible because they had the funding. Okay. Now, I'm looking at the times that we are now in. That was a rare situation where the executive and the judiciary seemed to want to work hand in glove. But what we see now is something that you see across the world, where even in a democratic system, the executive is constantly trying to control the judiciary, constantly. And it seems to be a constant battle.
Yes.
So in that regard, we are not in a unique position.
We are not, and I do agree.
You do agree?
Because when we go for the Commonwealth Judges and Magistrates Association,
Can I think
conference.
I wanted to take a
Yeah.
break, Honorable Kamau. If we can take a break and then you come back and answer that question so that we do it justice properly. Tuned into Justice Thursdays today with the Honorable Justice Jacqueline Kamau, as we're looking at issues of support for justices, judges and magistrates and judicial officers in supporting and reducing the case backlog. So, as we went on the break, Siti had that question for you. Perhaps he needs to refresh that question, right?
What seems to be the saga and the apparent tiff that exists between the executive and the judiciary, I was saying, is it's a worldwide phenomenon, not unique to Kenya. That's really what I was saying. And I wanted your input on that.
exactly, and I do agree with you. Our reason being is that even when we go for the Commonwealth Magistrates and Judges Association conferences, where all the judges in the Commonwealth meet, it's an issue which cuts across. It's a problem that cuts across all the countries, because the executive and the judiciary are always fighting. Parliament also makes the laws. The other one is supposed to be enforcing the laws, and we interpret. So, and if our job is to interpret, people might not necessarily be happy about why we're interpreting the laws in a particular way. But
Or the
that's our
result.
job. But that's our job. So you may like it. There's always a winner and a loser in any dispute. So, and I think that is where the problem is. So it's not unique to Kenya only.
Can I add?
Yes, no, Anjiro, go ahead.
Okay. We are under a fiscal consolidation program. Kenya is in a debt crisis. The IMF has come in and they are consolidating the budget, rationalizing the budget, including salary. They froze salary increments, but really they're talking about culling the wage bill, which is too high. Has the judiciary been affected in any way by this? Because we know, for instance, public universities have been affected. There are other ministries, public institutions that have directives from government around the payroll. Has this come in any way to the judiciary?
What I know is that the last time when I heard, but I don't know whether it has changed, was that we were also going to be affected. So that the salary reviews that we were expecting were not going to be automatic. Because now everybody has to suffer, what they call suffering together. That's what I'd had. But I know even currently, there's also negotiations with the SRC, which normally sets our salaries on how some of these salaries can be reviewed. That I remember. But I think if it's an issue that affects the whole state, the whole government, then I believe then you might be affected by way of not getting new employees. Because if you cannot get new employees, then there's a problem. But remember, even as you talk about that bloated wage bill, which has got a bloated wage bill, the county governments, and I know you're a fan of county governments, Wanjiru, and I know you
I'm a champion of them.
are a champion of them, and I don't think you'd like it touched. But I think that is where most of the budgetary wages are going, as far as I'm concerned. But it's working well, and it's working for the common mwananchi on the ground. So we also cannot do away with it. So somehow we need to re-strategize and revamp our economy so that we are able to sustain all these things, and because it's growing. So you can't grow and expect to remain at the same level as far as fiscal management is concerned.
What should we be aspiring to? What should
the
we
economy needs to grow. It needs to be spurred, of course, especially now after the COVID-19 pandemic. The economists and of course the executive now needs to tell us, how do we get the economy moving? Because it needs to sustain itself. The more you sustain the economy, the bigger it grows. So, and as it grows, you need people to work. If you don't have enough people then to work, then those processes that you want improved will not even be improved, all the services that you want to give. But before we move on, because there's something that I had also wanted to mention about the issue of the fight between the executive and the judiciary. I agree, and I am a proponent that in as much as the three arms of government are independent, they are also interdependent.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so whatever you do, you need to understand that it impacts on the other arm, either negatively or positively. So at all given times, even when you do decisions, you also have to have that in mind. If I do the decisions as well, I must also have in mind even about the insurance industry, for example.
Do you feel then, Justice KAMAU, that there is no consideration, or there is little consideration of the judiciary by the other arms of government?
They don't value it with the importance that it carries. It's a very important arm. But because, remember, we are not warriors of the words like you people. Or the social media warriors, keyboard warriors. We are not that. So you will never find a judge responding,
Getting involved in that.
get involved in issues. But if a politician, you say something negative to a politician, they will respond. If you say something negative to the executive, they will respond. But what do? We are quiet. So when we keep quiet, then people think that we are the weaker arm.
No, you wait for the day we come to your court.
Precisely. That's what I wanted to say. We speak with the pen. That is what is our weapon. Yes.
Yeah, so Justice KAMAU, as you say that, it's something that I was thinking about. In other jurisdictions, and also in Kenya, okay, under democracy, you're talking about lobbying. Even in the previous session, we were being told by Honorable Shakil again that we need to lobby to ensure the citizens' interests are taken into account. In other words, citizens need to be heard. What tactics can the judiciary employ to lobby rather than sit and wait to be heard and understood, because it's not going to happen? In fact, when Justice Maraga spoke back, it was looked at as...
It was groundbreaking.
Yes, it wasn't looked at favorably because we are not used to the judicial officers fighting back, and he fought back. But more to the point, how are you going to lobby for that space? Because there is no indication that the government coming in will be magnanimous enough to comply with the constitutional principles. They are looking at their own interests.
Well, we don't know the government that's coming in yet.
Yeah,
but
exactly. Now, one thing we must understand is that we have a very good office, a good officer in the CRJ. The office of the CRJ is the one that normally goes to answer the questions, and all departments have what are known as work plans, so that they're able to go and say what are their budgetary allocations. So I know she's been doing a great job. And for that, as you can see, even sometimes they have been slashing the budgetary allocations. Then at points they come up because they lobby. They lobby quite a bit. And that's Anna Madi, the CRJ. But we must also understand that we also need collaborative partners, strategic partners. That's what I feel. People who will support us. And say that either maybe the judiciary is being sat on. So please come up and assist us, because we are not able to go out there in the podium and speak. But for me, as a politician, president of the Kenya Magistrates and Association, we have gone out there and made statements and said, why are you cutting our budgetary allocations?
Right.
And it will, because it's my job to do that as taking care of the welfare. But other people, when it's done, it might look off. And that's why perhaps maybe the last time everyone was like, what happened?
What happened and why?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's something that has come up, and it's almost become a slogan of everybody who wants to say something, whether that would be attacking the executive or otherwise. That there is an ignorance, or that there's a direct ignoring of court orders that come about from judges, magistrates, and the like, that the executive, alongside others, ignore deliberately court orders, whether it is something of national importance, whether it is something of legislative importance, that there is an ignorance of such. What do you feel about that, coming from the place of those who make these orders?
I'll tell you what happens is that when you ignore court orders, then you create a very dangerous precedent. Because what it means then that if I give you an order for somebody not to knock down your wall, or maybe your child is being taken out of your jurisdiction of the country, somebody will ignore it and say, I don't care, and move on. So you're creating and quoting anarchy. That is the number one thing. So if you do not like the order that I've given or issued, we have processes right from the magistracy. If the order is given in the magistracy, come to the High Court. From the High Court, come to the Court of Appeal. From the Court of Appeal, maybe if there's constitutional matters, go to the Supreme Court. It's hierarchical. So it's very, very dangerous. But you see, my job as a judge or a judicial officer is just to give the orders. Now, what you do with it is now really up to you.
Is that for everybody across board? If a citizen or juror walks into court and an order is given on then what she's supposed to do later, and she ignores it, we can see very clearly the consequences that would happen. But it would seem as though there's a special place for other people who are higher ups, the executive, people who've been appointed by the executive, who don't obey these orders and nothing happens. These orders are a suggestion to them.
That's impunity.
Right? But then we don't
That's
see
state
anything.
impunity.
We don't see anything happening thereafter. It's a suggestion, it's made, and other things
Remember
happen.
what we do.
Somebody else would
Yes.
ignore it, and we can see the consequences in terms of what they would be.
Exactly. But let me say and reiterate this, that once I give a court order, whether it's in respect of Wanjiro or whoever, that order, once it's given, it is to be executed by somebody else. If it's maybe for maintenance and maybe somebody has not paid, you'll probably go and attach this, so it's taken through an execution process. I become functus officio once I declare my
You've
position.
discharged, yes.
I've discharged it.
Okay.
So it is up to the rest of the parties now to deal with it. So when we put a lot of burden on the judiciary and saying that your decisions are not being obeyed and you want me to do something about it, it becomes a problem because everything is very departmentalized. So I do this, the next thing somebody else does. But of course, we're not very happy about it. And for me, if you come before my court and you have not obeyed my orders, I'll really put you in.
Let me ask this question.
Yes.
When you say give instruction that somebody should be arrested, the understanding is that that order is supposed to be obeyed, isn't it?
That's correct.
But since you aren't the arresting officer, you're hoping that the complementing agency that is supposed to perform this process of arrest complies, isn't it?
Precisely.
Not hoping, expecting.
No. There's hoping.
There must be
It's
hope.
there's a legitimate expectation.
Yes.
There's a legitimate expectation.
Yes. But you see why I'm calling it hope?
Because it's
Because we have seen it not happening. Because if indeed the law was being followed, Justice KAMAU issues an order. As sure as the sun is shining right now, there'll be a police officer who will come, or whoever it is, coming to execute that order. And what Ndu is raising is that it appears that there is a lack of impartiality on the issue. But you know what aggravates it, Justice, is the conversation that has been in the conversation space for some time about judges and those in the judiciary system ganging up when it's one of their own who has some issue pointed at them. They gang up around the person and suddenly that matter gets completely obfuscated. You really do not know which way to turn, where to go, what to ask, what to see.
Let me say this, and thank you for that very important question, that there is no profession that probably will not stand out for its own. Even the editors and you journalists.
Wait.
Anytime when there's something, there's the guild, editors guild, I think that's what it's called.
Indeed, yes.
And you will always be saying that you cannot do this to one of us. Now, remember when the judiciary comes in as the court, it does not come to protect its own. What it does, it tries to create order. Now, any case that is brought before me, and you say that Ndu has done a particular thing, but you want me to give some stay orders for us to determine whether really that is a position. We can't first allow that action to take place and then for us to come up and say, oh, in fact, you were not supposed to have been arrested. So you first have to stay and then listen. Now, where you find that maybe there people forget And like he was saying that these matters are probably forgotten. Again, like we said, we have very few judges who are dealing with these cases. So the fact that a case has got prominence in the media, that you have decided it's your agenda, that this case must be prosecuted and it must be taken to court and it must move very fast-tracked. What happens to Wanjiko? So the case also finds itself in the judicial system. In the system.
With the 800,000
With the 800 other cases which are there. So people get very upset that how come this case has been forgotten. Let me tell you, even last week, if we ask Kenyans, what was the headline last week? We can't remember. Because in Kenya, everything happens every single day. There's a new headline.
Yeah, give it 5 minutes. There's another one coming
Precisely.
up. Right.
So, and that's the reason why you'll forget these cases. Just because we're in the media, that's why people forget, because there are other things that are also happening. But remember, even for the common wananchi, many other things are also being forgotten. But we are trying. Then again, once we take these cases to court, is that, like I said, we are not trying to protect people. It's just that the same way we also issue injunctions. Somebody wants to sell your property in the bank. The bank wants to sell your property. So what am I going to do? I'm going to stop the sale for me to listen to the dispute and hear, so did you not pay the money? You paid the money. You've sent all the notices.
Are there reasons why?
Then in that case, then I discharge the injunction. That's what should happen. And that's exactly what happens in the other cases. It's only that I think they're getting caught up in the system. Yes.
What happens then? Sorry. Yeah, sure.
Can you allow me to just revisit a small issue and then ask a question around the issue of the wage bill, bloated wage bill, and how do we address it? Economic growth. Of course, the economy has to grow. The fiscal consolidation program should be of interest to the judiciary because some of the proposals of the IMF from our analysis actually are a barrier to growth. And Kenya's growth actually has been on the decline, whether it's taxation, whether it's competitiveness on the regional market, because of some of those conditionalities. We are trying to frame that conversation with Parliament, with Treasury. We've sent our memos. We haven't yet gotten traction. So I think that's an issue of interest. On the wage bill again, a report conducted in 2016 by the Auditor General found that the problem with the wage bill, one, is not just the counties. It is the failure of the national government to rationalize itself to allow counties to grow. It is the failure to provide the needed money to lay off the pensionable, maybe the deadwood staff at the county level. It is the pensions. And actually, the national government budget has been growing at a time when functions reduced and were transferred. So the wage bill problem is not because of devolution. It's because of mismanagement, and the national government is equally culpable. And there was evidence that tracked this.
So then how does the judiciary then come into this here, Wanjiro?
I was simply just clarifying that it's not counties that are the wage bill push. It is really the national government that has failed to comply with, one, it's its own mismanagement. It's a historical issue around the wages and the pensions and benefits that are causing a lot of pressure, and that's across the board. So, yeah, I just I must protect devolution.
Of course. She's protecting the devolution.
Counties need staff to deliver services, and that's not the problem with the wage bill. But the question I wanted to ask is around land. Because land cases, of course, have been the bane of many families, and they've broken families, and there's been a lot of corruption around this. In your view, have we made progress in the, completion and fair adjudication of land cases or arbitration of land cases? Has there been progress? Has the corruption gone down? Have more cases been determined? What are maybe the barriers, if not?
Now, first of all, let me say this. Previously, they had very, very few judges in the Environment and Land Court. Now, with the new judges who were sworn in recently, so they now have good numbers. At least not very good numbers, but at least some numbers to assist them. Remember that land cases are very, very complicated. It's not like a traffic case where somebody says that you have overlapped and that kind of thing. You need to call a lot of evidence. The other thing is that when these people are stuck again in the court system, you find people die. The owner of the case dies. So you have to go for letters of administration. Then the person comes in. Then the case is not determined. Previously, that was happening. Then the person dies. And the cases keep on dragging. And because there's always going to be a person who is losing, they do not also want the cases to get finished. Remember, if I'm a defendant, I can also drag a case.
For sure.
Oh, my advocate is sick, the witness is unwell today, my witness has traveled out of the country, those kind of excuses. But what I know, in some courts, like they now have a zero tolerance to adjournments.
Right.
On the first day the case is supposed to be heard, then it must be heard to avoid all these things. But again, they get caught up in these problems because they're very complicated. They are probably looking for files in the registries and they're lost, especially like in the lands office. The kind of fraud that is perpetuated. Remember, Kenyans attach a lot of value to land. So you expect so many cases around that. So I think that court needs to be empowered and given more judges so that I think they have about 40 or something is not enough.
Not enough.
Not enough for the whole country.
As you look
What
at,
about
as
the
you continue to
corruption, the
dispense
culture of
your
corruption around land
as you
cases?
continue to dispense your
Missing
duties,
files.
dispense your duties,
Yes.
and you see, or we hear of what we hear coming out. How does it affect the work that you do if 1 or 2 or 3 or 10 judges have a smear on their image in terms of activities that they may have carried out, whether it is corruption, whether it is bribery, whatever it is? How does that affect the work that is being done?
It does affect, and I think that's what she was also just about to ask. It does affect the work of the judiciary a lot because remember that from where we sit, we need to inspire confidence to the members of public that anytime when you come before me, you do not need to pay me any money to get justice. Justice is not to be paid to the highest bidder. But again, remember that there's also this issue of when clients lose or litigants lose. The issue is, oh, I know my case. Definitely that person must have been paid something. You know? And I'm not saying that corruption maybe is not there. I don't know. Because we, like we say, in fact, yesterday somebody was saying that a joke somebody says you're taking a girl to a date and they says, I'm hungry. You're dealing with a lawyer. And the lawyer says, you must give me evidence to show that you're hungry. You understand? And that's the dangers of dating a lawyer. But the same thing is here, that corruption is an issue when you just say blanket that we know that there's corruption.
In the judiciary,
In
for
the
example.
judiciary. But you're not telling us exactly where it is. And I did listen to the interview the other day where it was said that almost everybody there is corrupt. But you do that, then you impact negatively into the whole institution. Because every time when I come there, I'm like, it's unlikely. And if you win a case, you'll be like, you cannot believe it. It now makes news that you actually won a case. We need to demystify the judiciary, let people come and understand that we are doing a good work. And there could be those problems, but let them be brought to court, let them be determined. Yes, let them be determined.
You see, you're right when you talk about processes that we need to understand. Because remember, the eyes, the lenses that we use to look at the judiciary are our lay lenses that are devoid of all the wherefores that the judiciary encompasses. And that is what we use as our yardstick. And that's what we use to look at the judiciary and say, oh, you mean this is what is actually happening? For instance, many of us have no idea how the Judicial Service Commission actually works. When there's an issue before them, what it is that they do and what they consider. Now, if these things were told the public, anytime there's an issue with the Judicial Service Commission, we would know, okay, now we have an idea what the process is. We know what is going to happen, all right? Every time there are thorny issues that come up and they involve the judiciary, that silence that the judiciary has is all good and well. But every arm of government has an individuals who speak on their behalf. Who speaks on the judiciary's behalf?
I think you've raised a very valid point because like all the other divisions, I know even like the police also have a spokesperson. So for us, the person who would ordinarily be speaking is the Chief Justice who speaks on behalf of the judiciary. But I think you raise an important point that perhaps maybe it's time that we started looking at how we can improve the image of the judiciary. And we have been doing this through Department of Public Communications. It's called DPAC. And so even sensitization like this
How's that
coming
working?
out,
How's that working?
it's working by us coming to Justice Week here
Yeah.
for people to understand exactly what we are doing, because we need to tell our story. People tell our story, but we are not being able to give it. We are not being given an opportunity. So I think this is a very important opportunity for me as a judiciary to come here and tell you this is what happens, and for you to hear from the birds, from
The horse's mouth.
from the horse's mouth.
Literally.
Now, on the issue of the JSC and how it works, and like you're rightly saying that people do not understand the processes. One, this commission works on part-time basis, because the commissioners who are there, they're on part-time basis. And like we have agreed that they also do not have a spokesperson to tell us what these processes are. But remember that any accused person, or any person who is any judicial officer or judge who is accused of something, or of something, is innocent until proven guilty. So because we are put in a very high moral standing as compared to the other arms of government, you first need to put these people in a situation whereby be very clear. That's why we are not having open sessions to hear these cases like in the courts, because you need to understand, is really this person, did they really do this? Because you need to process them back again to the same place of work that they are going to be in.
Exactly.
So if so many things have been said in public, like the vetting, it really also negatively affected the judiciary. I remember many people were very pompous, and if you do this, I'm going to take you to the vetting board, and you're going to do, they become very courageous.
So it's clear that obviously you need someone to speak on behalf
Precisely.
of this amount.
And I think that's a very important.
And processes need
right.
to be sensitive
Honourable
to
Justice.
public image.
Yes.
Honourable Justice KAMAU, thank you for joining us in the Situation Room this morning. It's been obviously clear that so many things need to happen, but that there's good work that's being done, and hopefully this work continues. Honourable Justice JACQUELINE KAMAU, High Court Judge and President of the Kenya Magistrates and Judges Association, thank you for joining us on Justice Thursday.
And thank you so much for having me.
Right.
I look forward to coming back again to sensitize you about the judiciary and the
Absolutely.
good work that is being done there. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.